If you just clicked on this video because your purchasing finger is on fire for the Sonos Era 100 and or 300 speakers, well, congratulations, you're probably a genius. Though I'm gonna do my best to make you even smarter, like assuming that's even possible. Hey, what's up everybody? Daniel here from Never Enough Tech. So what I want to do is review these speakers' design, controls, features, speaker hardware, and mix in some insights into Sonos' mission with these speakers, informed by comments from Sonos' CEO, Patrick Spence, and his sound guru, Giles Martin. Yes, that's it, son of George Martin, the famous Beatle producer. And mess up what would be a perfectly acceptable information video by offering up my commentary on the whole situation. So the basics. You can buy these speakers as singles. The 100 and 300 are $250 and $450 respectively. As pairs, you can save a few bucks, $468 and $853. If your OnlyFans count is really taking off and you can afford the newest and greatest home theater system Sonos has to offer, so Arc, 2 Era 300s and 2 bass modules, you're looking at $3,271, which includes a $125 discount from bundling. But you're not a Sonos fan because you're glued to your wallet, so let's jump in and talk Era 100. High level, this speaker is meant to make the near 10-year-old Play One, Sonos One form factor feel extremely anxious and inadequate, to the point that it should probably gather whatever dignity it has left and just remove itself from the Sonos website to save us all an embarrassing scene. The 100 is aimed at replacing the Sonos One. The One is sticking around for now, but expect it to be increasingly scarce. The first insult, they've been removed from all the home theater bundles and replaced with the 100. Patrick Spence, the Sonos CEO, said they want to give the 100 a distinct visual ID, and they did. The 100 is larger and heavier than the Sonos One. Ratio-wise, the 100 is, let's say, more statuesque, with the biggest change being a 12% increase in height. The 100 dropped the squarish shape for something more rounded, though not perfectly round as it's a little deeper than it is wide. The Eras have introduced a remastered control set which disentangles volume control from track controls by adding this inverted capacitive volume bar. So instead of doing this, you can now do this to change volume, which is much richer. And to control tracks, you can just press the arrows as opposed to swiping between those nebulous four-corner boxes. A useful gesture of the old control set that is probably largely unknown. The voice assistant active button is now a speech bubble, which is consistent with the slightly more minimalist iconography. So while on the topic of voice control, the Eras will continue to support Alexa and Sonos voice control, but due to Google technical changes, Google Assistant has been dropped for the Era speakers. Another minor aesthetic detail, they got a little less enthusiastic about the pinholes, dropping the circular design and leaving just 4 to support the voice control and room tuning mics. And about room tuning. Up until now, Sonos' premier room tuning technology, TruePlay, has been an iOS exclusive. Well, the Era is here to uplift the status quo. Yes, with the Era speakers, TruePlay remains an iOS exclusive. However, there is a lifeline for Android users via quick tuning, which takes about a minute to complete and is primarily aimed at smaller spaces with less complicated acoustics. Quick tuning is available to iOS users as well. Not sure if this option makes Android users angrier or happier. Probably both. Moving on, the 100's front have adopted the more recent 3-dimensional vertical Sonos branding. The status display has been moved from the top to the front and made significantly smaller. More pinhole, less tic-tac. The display can still be turned off, but if left on, it can be observed in the seated position, which is always a solid design choice. The grille, like the status display, is pinhole, as opposed to, again, tic-tac. The bottom has a rubber ring for stability, a mounting hole, not found on the One, which is there to serve Sonos' proprietary mounting hardware. And the power port, which is now shaped like this. Not this. Anyway, the grille wraps around something like 85% of the entire speaker, leaving a solid plastic strip in the back that houses 3 interesting doohickeys, each enabling a functionality that the Sonos One doesn't have. First, you get a physical unplug all the mics toggle to outsmart your handsy toddler and ensure voice privacy. Keep in mind the room tuning mics are also cut, so you'll need to give the mics power for that purpose. Next up, here on top, a Bluetooth button. So yes, Sonos has gone full 180 on Bluetooth, enabling it even in an indoor speaker. And yes, don't worry, both Eras still support AirPlay 2, which is a far superior wireless playback option than Bluetooth, if you happen to have an Apple device. Last, a USB-C, don't call it a charging port, line-in. So, yes, you can physically feed audio directly to the speaker, making it much easier to use as a computer speaker, for instance. If your source is analog, so you're using an old iPhone, iPod, Zune, record player, you can purchase a slightly overpriced 3.5mm female to USB-C male adapter. That is more likely to work than if you were to randomly buy off Amazon. That is, I'm confident that this converts analog to digital, not the other way around, and won't catch on fire. So 2 non-network based methods for getting audio on this thing, both cut and dry capabilities over the Sonos One, which I think is easily worth the $30 upgrade, even ignoring the primary enhancements I haven't even covered yet. So shame on me, I almost forgot this is a speaker. It's what's on the inside that counts. The highlights. First, the 100 speaker all by itself technically supports stereo. Yup, by adding a second tweeter. So instead of having one tweeter fire straight ahead, there are now 2 firing at an angle to bounce tweeter sound off walls and arrive in your ear at an angle that is more indicative of a stereo setup. Second, a 25% larger woofer for richer bass. Promising. Third, Sonos calls out this custom waveguide hardware intended to improve sound dispersion. Fourth, and not surprising but nice to confirm, a faster processor. 47% faster. The faster processor will improve responsiveness, room tuning, support more complex digital signal processing, and help future-proof the speaker for changes coming to the Sonos network over the next 10 years. So what is this speaker supposed to do and not do? What is its mission? The 100, while offering stereo all by itself, making it more spatial in a way, is not designed to be a 3D spatial audio product. Its main purpose is to support a traditional music listening experience like the Sonos One, whether it be a single speaker stereo-ish type sound or a true dual speaker stereo sound. It's an affordable commitment to the basics, the Sonos speaker for the people. To enhance this traditional sound, you can pair a sub or sub mini to a single speaker or a stereo pair. So if you're eyeing the 100s for rear speakers in your home theater setup, while it may technically be part of a 3D-enabled speaker ensemble, it is not aimed at making your existing home theater setup more immersive. So if you replace the ones with the 100s, I think it's fair to expect a richer sound, but yes, even with the side-firing tweeters, keep your immersion boost expectations modest. The 100s can serve as rears for the Ray, Beam Gen 2, and the Sonos Arc, so all the current soundbars at the time of this recording. Other enhancements, and this applies to the 300 as well, includes a reduction in adhesives by using more screws to improve repairability, more recycled materials, and reduced power consumption using less than 2 watts when idle, which is about half the consumption of the Sonos One. If you're worrying what your 100 will sit on, rest assured it will stay upright on a variety of flat surfaces, but if that is not bespoke enough, Sonos will gladly sell you a floor mount and or floor stand. A single wall mount is $70 a pair, $120. A single floor stand, $140 a pair, $270. Okay, on to the Era 300. I think we should start with the looks, which is definitely a thing. I prefer expanding multiverse, but unfortunately, Hourglass seems to have caught more traction. To give you a sense of size, it's 3.6 inches high, 10.24 inches wide, and 7.28 inches deep, and 9.85 pounds. So this speaker is maybe not as big as the model you have in your head. It is significantly smaller than the 5s, except in depth, and 4 pounds lighter, which is the weight of a Sonos One. These are big flashing physical cues for why the 300s are $100 less than the 5s. So let's start on top. Towards the front, you have a smooth plastic surface that houses the same control set and mics as the Era 100. And yes, you have the quick tune option on this speaker as well. On the front, you have an oval grille interrupted by only a Sonos logo and the new Era status light. On the sides, you got a lot of curve and a lot of grille. In the back, you have the same nifty enhancement interfaces as the 100, so Bluetooth button, mic power switch, and a USB-C line-in, which is an upgrade from the 5's analog line-in, and a very accessible power port. The back, well, great. The bottom, you have your rubber skis and mounting holes for the one existing compatible stand at the time of this recording. I'm sure there will be plenty more very soon. Okay, let's check out the inside stuff. So yes, another very impressive visualization. It's nice when you get these. So what we're working with are 4 tweeters and 2 woofers. Hard to hide it, cat's out of the bag. This is a spatial audio-oriented speaker. High, crisp, cutting sounds are very useful in creating a sense of space, position, and direction. So, unsurprisingly, there are tweeters firing in 4 directions, which are the front, left, right, and up. The latter 3 intended to bounce off walls to trick your ear into thinking things exist where they don't. It's an extremely dishonest audio pursuit. Note, Sonos thinks firing sound 180 degrees away from the listener is dumb. HomePods. Which is why there are no backfiring drivers. Woofers are placed on the side of the speakers to make the speaker less unidirectional, promoting its goal of placing sound objects in different places throughout the room, but also to give the sound a foundation. It's very weird to not have a woofer in front, underlining that this is not a traditional speaker and something to consider when pondering a purchase. The front driver, like the 100, is given a custom waveguide to enhance audio dispersion, which is the name of the 300 game. Okay, so what is this speaker supposed to do? Well, first, and this might hurt the home theater folks' feelings, this was designed primarily for spatial music playback. Home theater 3D audio seems to be a solid secondary consideration. So, as you may or may not be aware, music streaming services are really energizing their spatial audio support, with more and more artists willing to create that kind of content. The 2 streaming services that will support 3D audio streaming at the time of this video, check the description for updates, are Apple Music, which offers their proprietary spatial audio format, and Dolby Atmos, and Amazon Music, which offers Dolby Atmos and 360 reality audio. This is not the video where I dig into how these formats differ, but be sensitive to these badges as they do signify 3D audio. And if you get your hands on a 300, you're probably interested in how these badged tracks sound. Sonos is claiming that with a single 300 speaker, you can get a really convincing 3D audio experience. Giles, the Sonos sound guru, wants to put you in the studio with the Beatles, where you can hear the drums, bass, guitar, piano, placed virtually in different parts of the recording studio.
So for instance, I can put Paul McCartney back in Abbey Road, singing in Abbey Road, and the walls of Abbey Road becomes the walls of your home. That's super exciting.
To make it sound as though you were making history with them. One would suppose a pair of these speakers just transforms into a time machine. Giles more or less says that the Era 300 is the world's premier single-box spatial audio machine. When Giles is asked whether the 300s will transform the home theater Atmos experience, well,
I think people hear it and they say, yes, it is.
Yes, while there are height drivers and drivers pointing in more directions than with the 1s or 5s, there doesn't seem to be any particular indication that the 300s increment the Sonos home theater channel cap of 5.1.2. So my hypotheses are that the 300s in home theater plays a single rear channel but kind of throws it all over the place, and or there's some mimicking of the front height channels. As more is learned and I get my hands on the 300, I will provide updates in the description. As with the Era 100, there is both a Sonos wall mount and stand. A single wall mount is $80, a pair $130. A single stand $150, a pair $280. Sonos needs you to fully invest in this relationship. Buying advice. I think the Era 100 buying decision is very simple if you are kind of in the market for something like the Sonos One. If you really like stereo and the Sonos experience, buy 2. Try it for 44 days, and return it on the 45th if it misses the mark. The 300 versus the Sonos 5 debate is less cut and dry. The 300, I'd say, mostly has the upper hand. Other than being $100 cheaper, it supports Bluetooth and digital line-in, which you may find appealing. It also is superior to the 5 on spatial audio rendering. So if you are primarily seeking spatial audio for home theater and or music, this is a no-brainer. If you are turned off by the spatial audio specialization, then it's also a no-brainer, but with an unfortunate $100 tax. If you're primarily interested in a traditional sound but are spatial curious, this is a much more difficult decision as the 300 will sound good playing either kind of format. It has more features and is more future-proofed. In this case, I suggest going with the 300 or at least making an effort to listen to both side by side in an electronics store. I suspect whether the 300 can satisfy your 5 needs will be rather idiosyncratic. There are probably other debates to be had, but we'll save them for another video. If you're watching this before mid-April 2023, I probably do not yet have my hands-on videos released. After mid-April, you should look for my hands-on reviews. Last, I do have a somewhat embarrassing 20,000 subscribers by 2024 goal, because I'm older than 15. Now, I don't know if my videos are any good, but I do know I throw a lot of resources at them, so, bless your heart subs count just as much as the regular ones, just in case you weren't sure. Okay, wrapping this up, catch you on the next one.